In 2013, in Ukraine, a café worker created a simple piece of malware. It was originally just a small code written as a fun experiment, but that tiny program soon began robbing banks. Within a few months, as it started stealing millions of dollars from banks, the group behind the malware evolved into an international cybercrime organization. They even managed to control ATMs and withdraw cash remotely. Their methods were so clever that almost no one could detect them. Over the last 5 years, this group hacked more than 100 financial institutions and stole nearly $1 billion. Unlike typical hackers, they used completely silent, smart, and clean techniques. This hacking group was called the Carbanak Group. It began in Ukraine in 2013. What these hackers did was first identify which banks they wanted to target. Then they researched the employees working at those banks, collecting their profiles, emails, and job positions. After gathering this information, they sent emails to those employees that appeared to be legitimate bank-related communications. The emails contained correct grammar, proper formatting, bank logos, and signatures, making them look completely authentic. Because of this, employees had no reason to suspect anything and would open the emails. Inside those emails were Microsoft Word files or other attachments. The moment an employee opened the file, malware would automatically download onto their computer. Once inside, the Carbanak hackers gained full access to the employee's computer and everything connected to it: servers, internal networks, and transaction tools. However, unlike typical hackers, they did not immediately steal money or data. Instead, they carefully observed how the bank worked. They studied things like what tasks the employee performs, how daily banking operations function, what happens when a cashier opens the system in the morning, when internal transfers occur, how ATM cash refill requests are generated, how fraud filters work, how customer complaints are handled. The hackers watched all of this in real time and recorded everything. They saved all the information because they wanted their theft to appear like normal banking transactions, not like suspicious activity. So they learned and followed the bank's own procedures, but it didn't stop there. They also studied how to take control of ATM servers, how to collect user data, and how the entire banking structure worked. Once they gained access to the bank's core servers, they began manipulating the system in extremely dangerous ways. For example, artificially increasing balances in customer accounts, transferring real money from the bank's treasury into dummy accounts. In the customer's banking app, the amount would appear to be there, but in reality, the money didn't exist in the account. Even bank employees would see the same fake balance. In one case, this happened. An account originally had 1,000. The hackers temporarily increased it to 50,000 and later transferred that 50,000 to their own account. When the bank later detected a mismatch, after several weeks, they traced the transaction back to the account holder. But the account holder had no idea their account had been hacked. When investigators checked the final hacker account that received the money, it belonged to someone in another country. Even there, the money had already been diverted elsewhere. Hackers do this intentionally. Banks first spend days trying to investigate the account holder. Meanwhile, the hackers move the money through 4 or 5 layers of transactions, making it almost impossible to trace where the money finally ends up. This was the Carbanak style. They didn't simply steal money and run away. They manipulated the system and internally confused the bank. Their main weapon was ATMs. They targeted ATMs located in isolated places where few people visit. By hacking the ATM servers, they made the machines dispense cash without any human interaction. In other words, cash would come out of the ATM, even though nobody was withdrawing money. A short time later, members of the hacker group waiting nearby would collect the cash. They even controlled security alarms, so they would not trigger, and manipulated CCTV systems as well. The next morning, when banks noticed missing cash, they had no idea what had happened. They couldn't even determine how the ATMs had been controlled. Even when banks realized a hack had occurred, they still could not identify the attackers. Once the hackers stole the money, they quickly converted it into clean money through methods like money laundering or transferring it into cryptocurrency. They didn't just use ATMs, they also transferred money directly from bank accounts into unused accounts. Those unused accounts belonged to different individuals. From there, the money was moved again into crypto or other laundering channels. Through fake companies, fake bank accounts, and dark web exchanges, the hackers laundered the money. In multiple stages, they transferred the money, mixed it, cleaned it, and eventually reintroduced it into the market as legitimate funds. This entire cycle would start in one place and end abroad as if it were a completely legal business transaction, making it almost impossible to trace. What began in Ukraine slowly spread to countries like Russia, the USA, China, Germany, and Switzerland. The scale of the heist created panic around the world. Even with strong security systems in place, banks were being silently hacked and losing money. Governments began to realize that cybercrime was far more complex than they had imagined. For the first time in history, a hacking group didn't just steal money directly, they hacked the rules of the banking system itself. In 2015, the Kaspersky Lab antivirus team first identified the Carbanak malware. From that moment, a global hunt for the hackers began. Agencies like Europol and the FBI also got involved. In 2018, European police arrested a man named Denis K. Authorities seized his servers, laptops, and crypto wallets. He was believed to be the leader and mastermind behind the Carbanak Group. However, even after his arrest, the operations did not stop. By then, the Carbanak malware had already spread across the dark web. New hackers began creating updated versions of the malware and using it even more powerfully. Other hacking groups, such as Lockbit and Ransom Hub, also adopted the same techniques pioneered by Carbanak and began carrying out even more advanced cyber attacks. In other words, while the original gang was caught, the methods they created never disappeared. The Carbanak heist became a lesson for the world. No matter how secure we believe our banking systems are, if even a single employee opens the wrong email, the biggest financial robbery could occur from within. Cybercrime is not just about coding. It also involves psychology, manipulation, and deep observation of systems. You don't need a physical gun to steal money anymore. With the right email, the right timing, and the right code, a bank vault can be opened. The Carbanak Group proved this to the world. To stop hackers like these, we must build stronger and more secure networks.